Alright, what's happening, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a video review for a figure review for the DC Collectibles, which used to be called DC Direct, Darkside figure that just came out today, and I was lucky enough to pick them up. Decided I would do a review. This is going to be sort of a ghetto-style review. Just going to be using my regular web camera. I don't have a reviewing station for figures anymore where I can point the camera at it. So basically, it's just going to be me, doing the best I can do this way. Anyway, so here he is right here, and as you can see, he is humongous. He is 13 inches, sculpted by Phil Ramirez. Is that right? Yeah, Ramirez. 13 inches tall, so he is freaking huge. He's bigger than any DC Universe Classics figure ever made, even the Collect and Connects, Build-A-Figures or whatever, and he's almost as big as a Marvel Legends Sentinel figure. Here is the regular Build-A-Figure Collect and Connect Darkside, so you can see in comparison, he completely towers over him. And to give you a size comparison with the with a Batman figure from the same line, he again, completely towers over him. So I'm going to open him up and let's take a look at him out of packaging. Alright, so we got the Darkside out of packaging, and here he is. So let's get a good look at the details on him. This guy is ridiculous. Just to give you another size comparison to hold the Batman up, the Batman goes about up to his upper thigh to crotch area. So you literally, he's about twice the height of one of these if you guys have these. Compared to this, like I was showing before, this is a little bit taller, but again, I mean, just look at the comparison of the two. Like, there you've got the, the DC Universe Classics Build-A-Figure, and here you've got the new one from DC Collectibles. This thing is stellar, man. When we saw the pictures originally, I'm sure many of us got really, really excited for it. And the Jim Lee run on Justice League has been incredible. And this guy, I mean, he does not disappoint. The actual release version is just as cool as the prototype looked. Look at that face. I mean, it's right bang on. It's basically perfect. The shoulder pads have this like cracked tile look to them, as well as on his chest with the light there. You've got this symbol here, which is really cool. And then his skin, too, if you want to call it skin, it's like stone, has all the cracking in it, too. It reminds me a lot of sort of like how in video game DC Universe versus Mortal Kombat, which I have Darkseid as the final boss, and he's huge. He's like way bigger than, any of the other characters in the game in terms of size, like twice the size. And this figure really reminds me of that, of how he's just so much bigger than the others, and just looks really cool. Great detailing on the hands, and pretty good articulation on them too. Actually, it's got like I'm not sure exactly what kind of joint it is here. It's like a ball joint, but it can kind of tilt there. You see that, and then it can of course turn. And then there's another one here at the top of the wrist, underneath this part right here, the top of the gauntlets. So you get a really good range of motion with that. There's no articulation from in the torso or the waist at all. The head does have pretty good articulation, pretty good range of motion. He can look pretty much any way you want him to, and he's going to have to because he won't be able to turn that waist. So that's kind of a downside. Whereas the DC Universe Classics version has a lot more articulation than that. He can move in a lot of different ways because he has the joints to do so. Whereas this guy doesn't. But I mean, in terms of detail and just having a really badass looking Darkside figure, if you had to pick between the two, I definitely would go with this one for sure. He is quite expensive. He's about, I think he's about $100 after taxes. He's supposed to be, I think, about 90, but then if you after taxes and everything, you're looking at close to pretty much $100 for him. Is he worth it? I'd say he's worth it for anybody who collects the line of DC Collectibles, the Justice League, anybody who's been reading the books, or anybody who likes Darkseid a lot as a character and as a villain. I think he's probably the best villain by himself that they could use if they were going to do a Justice League movie. They should probably pick him. He just makes the most sense of anybody. And definitely a really cool looking character, and makes for a great figure. I compared him to a Sentinel earlier from Marvel Legends. He's about an inch shorter, but he's way thicker than a Sentinel. You know, he doesn't, even though he's really tall, he's not losing anything in terms of size. Like if you look at his lats here, you know, they come right out, his shoulders and everything. His legs are huge. To carry on with our articulation, he's got ball jointed shoulders, so he does get, you know, pretty good range of motion there with the arms and stuff. And he's got a single jointed elbow, which doesn't have too much. It's kind of hindered because everything's so big. You get that a lot with bigger figures. Like earlier on, I said he's got articulation there and at the hand, and then of course at the top of the thigh. You can kind of move it up, but it's hindered by this this right here, so it doesn't go too far. And then right here, the knees do, but as you can see, it's super tight. But it's only single jointed; it doesn't have too much in terms of motion, and a swivel there at the top of the foot underneath the knee. So a pretty amazing figure. He's got this jewel in the center of his chest here. I think somebody told me this is supposed to light up, but I don't see any information about a light up feature, so I don't think it actually is supposed to light up. The shoulder pads are detachable. You can take them off and put them on. There's a little ball joint underneath that you can reattach it if they break off, which is a pretty good thing to have for a figure like this. It's so big. And just to do some more comparisons, I'll grab a parademon so that you can see, you know, how big this guy is compared to a parademon. All right, so here he is with the parademon. As you can see, you know, it fits in scale really, really well. You could probably have, you know, a couple of these. These are not cheap either. They're actually like 25 or 30 bucks depending on where you get them. But, you know, you could have a couple of these surrounding them. I think maybe 3 or 4 would probably be, you know, really cool to have an army for them, just to army build them. And, you know, that's pretty much all my thoughts on the Darkside. It turned out to be exactly how we wanted it to be. It's essentially the perfect representation of a Darkside figure, and DC Collectibles has been just destroying it, man. Whereas Mattel, I feel like, hasn't been doing too well as of late. DC Collectibles has been doing just some stellar work. I mean, this is amazing, man. The guy who sculpted this actually is the same guy who sculpted the Marvel Legends Juggernaut, which is pretty much one of my favorite figures of all time. So Ramirez is amazing, man. Just amazing. He's probably my favorite sculptor there is. And this is probably my favorite figure of the entire year right here. Especially for anyone that really likes the Justice League and really likes Darkseid. He's one of my favorite villains. So this figure definitely is probably the perfect Darkseid figure. And if you're going to go with one, if you could only get one, I'd say get this one because it's nuts. If you got the cash, if you can afford it, it's worth it. Anyway, so I'm going to give this figure a pretty much a perfect 10 out of 10 for DC Collectibles. Seeing as how they're not based around articulation, they're based more around detail. In terms of an action figure overall, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because the detail is perfect, but the articulation, of course, they could have added in, if they had a waist joint here so that he could turn, that would make the figure absolutely perfect, I think. And maybe some joints for the fingers, since it is kind of bigger, and the Marvel Legends Sentinels do have you know, finger articulation. So, I mean, they could do it with a bigger figure like this. It's not too hard. I mean, even some smaller figures do, but companies don't usually do that nowadays. But, you know, I mean, so it's not absolutely perfect in terms of an action figure, but for what DC Collectibles has been doing in their business model of just making great detail figures and not really putting in the articulation, the thing is stellar. Anyway, that's it for this review, guys. Let me know what you think about my figure reviews. I don't intend on doing too many and setting up another station or, you know, to do figure reviews in particular. The reason why is because figure prices have been like going up like crazy. So maybe I'll do a video just talking about figure prices because the last couple of years it's been crazy. I can't get a Marvel Legends figure here in Canada for less than 30 bucks. Even if I find it in store, I can't get one for less than $30. So that's a lot for a basic 6-inch figure. It's quite a bit. Now, something like this, it's worth it. But for a lot of them, I'm like, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm getting my money's worth. Anyway, that's really all I got to say about this one, guys. See you for the next one. This is Trev. Saying peace.